Benoit torturing the champion. The towel's on the line. The towel's on the line. He's got the crossface on. Benoit ripping and tearing. Tap out. By God, Chris Benoit is the new world heavyweight champion. Do you believe in miracles? I understand that Chris Benoit piped in that audio in the loudspeaker system in his household on that fateful weekend in June of 2007. Man, Chris Benoit's version of Family Matters really was a lot darker than the original sitcom Family Matters. And on that note, I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of WWE WrestleMania 20, where it all begins again. What the fuck does that even mean? No goddamn idea. Let me know your thoughts on this show in the comments, please, provided anybody is still watching after that, well, let's just say, somewhat tasteless joke about Chris Benoit, but the guy's a fucking murderer. Head trauma or whatever aside, he's still a fucking murderer that murdered his wife, waited a day, murdered his kid, and was gonna go to the pay-per-view. So fuck Chris Benoit, he deserves to burn in hell. So anyway, yeah, this event, it was a tale of two shows. It was overly long, very goddamn long. It was a big anniversary, big milestone show. Madison Square Garden, 20,000 some odd fans, loud, proud, and just out in full force. There were times where there were ebbs and flows and they were a little bit quiet because you can only be so goddamn loud, even if you're a passionate New York crowd like this. It was overly long, though. It was an example also of trying to get so many people in on this particular Mania because, one, the payouts are going to be huge. Big buy rate, by the way, $1.02 million buy rate. Or pretty big buy rate right there. Well, now 1.02 million, but that's 1 point some odd million people watching. Good stuff. How much did it make at the gate? Who the hell goddamn knows? Apparently it did generate like 13.5 million for, people around Madison Square Garden as far as paying people, paying staff and all that and everything. So obviously they made quite a bit of money, and based on those pay-per-view buy rates, they made a lot of cash. It's also a Mania that is quite tainted given the fact what happened in the main event. One of the best main events, one of the best WrestleMania matches in history. Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. You could argue it should have been Benoit and Triple H, and you could have had Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, and Kurt Angle in a triple threat match. That would have been something. That would have been fucking incredible as well. It also would have been the closest we got to Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Guerrero in the ring. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. The Boys of Harlem Choir sing America the Beautiful. Video package with past and current clips and everything. Shot of Vince, Shane, and one of Shane's newborn sons. I don't remember which one. I know he's got 3 kids, and I don't remember which one it is. But we had a step up by Drowning Pool and the pyro and everything and all that. Boom, 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 doing all that. And JR and Lawler on commentary to call Raw. Cole and Taz call SmackDown. And we get Hugo Savinovich, easy for me to say, and Carlos Cabrera calling the Spanish announce feed. As you would expect, because those guys really were, a legendary duo. I mean, I assume still would be, but as far as WWE fans, they called a lot of big events. So Cena raps to the ring, saying he's itching to beat Big Show like a penis with an STD. He says, Madison Square Garden, say it loud, Big Show sucks. Cena was getting cheered in Madison Square Garden. It was wild. Yes, he got cheered in the 2008 Rumble when he made the shocking return, and then they quickly turned to boos. This was pretty solid. They were pretty solidly behind John Cena at this point. The match was basic. Big Show basically just, dominated Cena. Cena got in a few shots. Eventually did hit an FU. The crowd popped. But later he had to use Nux after the ref tried to get the chain away from him. He used the word life. Nux, word or life, who knows. Hits the second FU. Gets the victory. 1, 2, 3. New U.S. champion. And Cena would go on to have an okay career. Oh, wait, he would become pretty much the biggest box office attraction they had for about a full-on decade. Even as business started to go down, Cena was a big goddamn deal. I'm not saying Cena was my favorite. I wouldn't even put him in my top 20. But Cena built a hell of a career after this. And it's really hard to argue about them going with him. So, Coach was walking backstage, talked to Dr. Tom Pritchard and Johnny the Bull Stamboli. Yeah, by the way, he was Relic. Relic is killer backwards. So anyway, he talks to Teddy Long. Holla, holla. We get a few tag team matches play out a little bit later. Coach then talks to Eric Bischoff, who is there with a young upstart Johnny Nitro. Yes, the future John Morrison, now Johnny Super Johnny, whatever. Johnny multi-nicknames. That might as well be what his name is. And Bischoff says, I want you to go get Undertaker, and I want you to bring in the Raw. Okay, that's great. Let's send Coach, the coward that allegedly assaulted women backstage at, in ESPN studios. Allegedly. Let's send this coward back there. So Orton, Flair, and Batista are by a stairwell, the same stairwell where Orton kicked Foley down the goddamn stairs when he spat in his face. Not because he wasn't cool, because Carlito hadn't debuted yet, and about Foley and Rock and beating them down tonight. Then Booker T and RVD took on the Dudley Boys, Garrison Cade, Mark Jindrak, and La Resistance, which was Rene Dupree and Rob Conway. Well, you want to talk about getting everybody on the card? It was a fatal four-way match for the World Tag Team Championships on Raw. Okay, 5-star frog splash on Conway, 1, 2, 3. Let's move on. Seriously, there wasn't a lot to this match. Coach then hears weird noises in the bowels of the Madison Square Garden. And it's Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan. Moolah and May are there. Because old people making out is funny, according to Vince. It's really sad to hear Bobby Heenan like this, even though it was great to see Bobby Heenan on the Mania card. I mean, why wouldn't you cheer for Bobby Heenan? More on him a little bit later. But May talking about getting her puppies out. Oh, your puppies are barking. That was just kind of funny how Heenan would just do that, because even though his voice was starting to go, he could still just get off those great one-liners. Chris Jericho taking on Christian at last year on your own until Trish comes down and screws over Jericho. This match was all over a girl. It was friends exploding all over a girl. That line sounded a lot less dirty in my head, so I'm going to move on from that. Man, Canadian on Canadian on Canadian action. I usually have to pay extra to go see that. Always delete your search history, by the way. Great ebb and flow here. These guys work well together. Years before Chris Jericho would become the human couch cushion that he is right now and donate thousands of dollars to, a guy that doesn't really respect women or really anybody. And also, well before his wife and mother-in-law were ever anywhere near Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021. Let's get back to that. Also, the match was fine at times, but had a good pace to it. It picked up the pace as far as, back and forth action. I will call this a bit of a lost classic had it been on another card. The problem is this is the third of 12 matches. So, great submission wrestling, great stuff, a wall spot to the outside, around the outside. Later, Trish comes down to a pop. How could you not pop for Trish? And she's dragged in. Jericho goes check on her inadvertent elbow. Roll up, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. Trish cost Chris Jericho the victory. And then it turned out to all be a ruse, and she hit him and then made out with Christian. Okay. See, that's what love gets you, guys. The lesson learned, never trust a woman. That's not it. The lesson learned, whether you're a woman or a man, never trust somebody that says they like you. That's what I'll go with. So, Foley is fired up, but The Rock says, hey, Foley, get more fired up, because there's Madison Square Garden. Hey, cameraman, go out here. And he does that. But before that, Rock says about Hurricane and Rosie, Hamburglar and Grimace. And then talks about two legends, Don Morocco and renowned murderer Jimmy Snuka, who's buried in hell for what he fucking did. Fuck you, Jimmy Snuka. I'm glad you're dead. And then tells the cameraman to go out. You get right back in here. Ah! So Evolution takes on the Rock and Sock Connection. Well, Evolution minus Triple H, Batista, Ric Flair, and Randy Orton. Well, it had some good moments. It wasn't the best. Foley had dropped a lot of weight. He had mentioned he dropped like 40, 50 pounds. And good on him. We get the Flair-Rock interactions. We get Orton and Foley interactions, which would lead to the match at Backlash. A terrific fucking match. It really did establish Orton as a main event guy. And we get the Flair elbow, but Rock stops it, hits people's elbow. Rock bottom, that's a stopped count. Flair grabs a chair and he's just running around like, a drunk man ready to assault a flight attendant. Wait, no, that was 2 years prior, but it wasn't assault, according to some people. And the sock out. Oh my God, the sock is out. And an RKO 1, 2, 3. By the way, we also got a Batista bomb to The Rock. That's the closest interactions we'll get between The Rock and Batista in a wrestling ring. And it was what it was. The Rock's last Mania appearance for 8 fucking years. I just retro-reviewed his appearance after this. Mania 28. Check that out if you want. So, crowd was not very happy when we get Foley chance. We thought Rock might lay out Foley. No, he didn't. Hall of Fame clips. And a great Hall of Fame, with the lineup that I'll go over here in just a minute. The one line that always gets me, though, is from Bobby Heenan's speech. It's a real honor and a real privilege. And there's only one thing missing. I wish Monsoon was here. Ooh, that hurt. that cut deep. I wish Monsoon had been able to be there too. That would have been great. Fortunately, he had health issues and passed away about 4.5 years before. God, that would have been a great man. He and a Monsoon were such a great duo. Oh God. All right, let's get away from the sadness here and talk about Howard Finkel introducing Mean Gene, who brings out the Hall of Fame 2004 class. Jesse Ventura, who said in 2008, maybe we ought to put a wrestler in the White House. No, just people put idiot in the White House in 2016 because they're fucking morons. Tito Santana, superstar Billy Graham, the guy that got a liver transplant and a new lease on life and has proceeded to be a piece of shit since. Sergeant Slaughter, Greg Valentine, JYD accepted by his daughter, Harley Race, Pete Rose, Don Morocco, Big John Studd accepted by his son, and Bobby Heenan. Pete Rose, by the way, the first inductee in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. Good stuff. And people were doing the weasel chants, and Heenan's doing the classic thing like, pointing, I want that guy ejected. It's just good stuff. And then we get Tori Wilson and Sable versus Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler. Playboy Evening Gown match. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, boy. Sable 3-0 at WrestleMania. Sable 3-0 at WrestleMania. If that isn't an indication Vince McMahon's going to burn in hell for his crimes against wrestling, I don't know what is. Embarrassing. This was fucking embarrassing. Not that it was going to be that great. This got more time, by the way, from entrances to aftermath than the women's championship match got. I mean, the women's championship match had a head shaving thing right afterwards, but this got more hype. Fucking stupid. Fucking embarrassing. Nobody wanted to see Sable like this, and if you did, fine. Why would you want to see somebody that looked like she aged about 20 years in 5 be out there doing this kind of shit? Cold on Jackie's outfit. Imagine what she could do with those feathers. Oh my. So, there were jokes about, the women topping each other and everything and that kind of stuff. The ref got tumbled on by Tori and Jackie, and Tori pinned Jackie and spanked her. This is something they thought should be on a mainstream broadcast. Yeah, pretty embarrassing. Pretty goddamn stupid. So we get footage of fans all over the world. Nobody from Germany who could claim that their parents said they were in Austria during the war. I'm just going to offend everybody at this point. Eddie and Chris Benoit are backstage. He tells Chris he's proud of him, win or lose. I'm going to win. And Chris Benoit getting really fired up. And no, Chris, put down that phone cord and put down that pillow. That's the Wolverine I know. The one that will tear Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Nancy, and Daniel apart. What? Eddie, what? Cruiserweight Championship Open match. Why not just offend everyone? Why not just dig a bigger hole for myself at this point? Chavo Guerrero with Chavo Classic. Taking on Akio, Kidman, Funaki, Jamie Noble, Rey Mysterio, Shannon Moore, Tajiri, and Ultimo Dragon. I have virtually no memory of Ultimo Dragon's run in WWE. Because there wasn't much to it. He got the Wrestle Madison Square Garden on this show. I think he got a brief Cruiserweight Championship run. I'm struggling to remember if he won the Cruiserweight Championship. But that being said, he was only there for like a year, maybe 15 months. Billy Kidman at one point braining himself doing a goddamn shooting star outside. Down to Rey and Chavo wins. There wasn't much to this. Each match I think was a minute tops, if that. Goldberg Bork package, and we get that and everything, and all this hype, and these two bulls are going to go at each other, and Stone Cold Steve Austin got a bigger cheer than anybody. Bork made his entrance to boos, and Goldberg got some Goldberg chants, but then the crowd started booing Goldberg versus Bork Laser. Austin is the referee. Goldberg was going to leave. Goldberg's contract was only for a year. Bork had decided just before this, I want to go and leave a multi-million-dollar contract and go try out for the NFL, because I'm tired of the lifestyle. I don't blame him for wanting to leave, but this is ridiculous. This match was shit. Utter dog shit. Fuck you, Goldberg. Fuck you, Lesnar chants. You sold out. You sold out. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye. Austin chants. They stalled forever. Boring chants. Even when they started doing shit, the crowd wasn't into it. The crowd cheered more when the match was over because they're like, thank fuck this was over. At one point, Goldberg gets a big move. Bork hits a big move, both for 2 counts. And then spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. And then Bork gets stunned right out of a WWE ring, and then we do a toast with Goldberg, Austin does, and then by we, I mean him, of course, and then he stuns Goldberg. Okay. Goldberg is, that's the closest, by the way, we're going to get to any interaction between Goldberg and Austin. And then Pyro outside to celebrate the event. Mania 21 going Hollywood. I can't express in full on this video just how bad Goldberg versus Brock was. It was, I bought that pay-per-view. I watched that pay-per-view live. And I remember watching thinking, you know what, I don't want to watch this show anymore. And there was still more to come. There was more good stuff to come. And this was just abysmal. It also didn't help that the event was 4.5 goddamn hours long. But yeah, Goldberg was gone for a number of years. Bork was gone for about 8. And that was pretty much it right there. Vince McMahon then comes out, thanks to fans and such and everything, and says, cool, thank you very much for making WrestleMania as big as it is, and making this WrestleMania so big, and on to the future. Ha ha ha! So, Too Cool, Rikishi and Sky Too Hottie versus the APA, and pretty much one of the last appearances that Bradshaw had teaming with Farouk, because Farouk would end up doing full-time retirement. World's Greatest Tag Team, Haas and Benjamin, and the Bashams. Minus Linda Miles, Shaniqua. Probably a good thing, because Shaniqua didn't fucking belong in a wrestling ring. So, Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Tag Titles. Same as it ever was. Copy and paste from the Raw Fatal 4-Way. Sit down on one of the Bashams for 3, and then Too Cool, do the dance. This version of Too Cool, by the way, was better than the one with Grandmaster Sexay. Edge return. He's returning soon. He returned as a face and turned heel a few months later because at that point people wanted to boo Edge, and Edge was a much better heel. Here's Jesse Ventura to promote himself and then interview Trump, who got boos. The interview was what it was, as you would expect between these two guys in 2004. And JR and King say a wrestler in the White House and a billionaire vice president? Oh, God, who would be stupid enough to vote for Trump in the White House? So, barbershop chair on the entranceway, and Victoria and Molly Holly had a title versus hair match. Victoria's Women's Championship against Molly's hair. Of course, King at one point says, Molly being such a good girl, would this be the first time she's been shaved? She's a little old for you, Jerry. She's out of school. You fucking creep. So, it was quick. It wasn't bad. Credit to Molly for being a pro and putting her hair on the line to just get the women's title on the card. And then Victoria wins with a backslide and shaves Molly's head while she's strapped down to a barber's chair. That was a weird barber's chair. And then we get Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle, WWE Championship match. I can't really say too much about this match beyond just how terrific it was. The counters, the great wrestling, as you would expect. Eddie had a very good WWE Championship run. He didn't feel it was good and wanted the title taken off of him. You could imagine he probably would have held it at least until SummerSlam, if not longer. But he was worried he wasn't doing a good job. He lost his confidence. And it was a lost classic. The crowd was into it. Kurt looked like he might get the victory. He had the ankle lock on. Eddie loosened his boot. And then the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling, the surprise roll-up. The boot came off. Oh no! 1, 2, 3 with the ropes. Eddie cheated. Nothing wrong with his ankle. Ha ha! Great job by Eddie Guerrero. He retains the WWE Championship. Good stuff, though. Not a match I can summarize very well in a review, but it's really, really good stuff. So we get a Kane entrance. The crowd was just very, very up because they wanted to see the return of the dead man. Oh, yes! It's Paul Bearer. Both of him by this point. Yeah, I did like the one line where, look at that horrible, hideous face. Yeah, Paul Bearer's is pretty bad too, but Paul Bearer arrives. The Druids are here. They got the torches out. That first gong, crowd just goes nuts. And Undertaker makes his entrance to a huge pop, does the eye roll, does the eye roll thing I can't fucking do, and does that, and stares him down. He has the short hair because it was literally decided, I think maybe a couple months prior that he was going to return as the dead man. And, oh my God, he suddenly doesn't have long hair like the dead man did. Okay, then unfortunately, Kane versus Undertaker, big deal. They built this thing up from the Rumble, well, from Survivor Series 2003, but especially from the Rumble, they started kicking it off and everything with all the, the vignettes and all this stuff, and it was really, really cool, and all the cool stuff that kept happening to Kane. He kept his pyro wouldn't go off. There was rain falling down on the stage. Listen to the rhythm of the falling rain. The dead man's gonna stop your heart. But this was an example of once the bell rang, that was pretty much it. It didn't have to be a classic match. The crowd was just happy to see Undertaker back. But it was sloppy. It was definitely not their Mania 14 match. And Undertaker won with a tombstone. Just wasn't a great match, like, at all. and then we get to Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Redacted. I mean, Chris Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship. And boy, this is cool. Really, really great match. Just a shame that Chris Benoit had to fucking taint it by killing his goddamn wife and child. It was a great match. Shawn bled like crazy. Shawn bled like crazy at one point. Triple H was bleeding like crazy. He wants to do something evil to Benoit on that top rope. Boy, man, that Bowflex machine had a mind of its own. Shawn cut way too deep. I mean, that's like that Sum 41 song. It's like, he's about to bleed 41 goddamn pints of blood, which you don't have in your body, by the way. Brutal stuff. Benoit, torturing the champion. Benoit ripping and tearing. And the tap out. My God, Chris Benoit wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Eddie's out there. Big celebration between two best friends, and it'd be fucking tainted. Eddie would be dead within a year and a half. And Benoit would be dead within just over 3 years. And my God, if that isn't just an indication of how much wrestling can take out of somebody, I don't know what is. But it's a downer of an ending, knowing what's coming. Not that Eddie was, not that Eddie hadn't been juicing and hadn't had his drug issues in the past or whatever, but Eddie he finally gave out. It just finally gave out. Benoit took the coward's way out by doing what he did because he was a goddamn murderer. And I'm going to stick by that, and I don't really fucking care. But that being said, great fucking match if you can overlook that, but it's impossible to overlook it. It's always going to have this dark cloud hanging over it. But where it all begins again, well, it definitely began. And then we saw what 2004 brought us. It brought us some weird, weird stuff. Nothing like Katie Vick in 2002, though. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.